Tom from Continuity, and this is the Vintage News. We are back, and now bringing you better quality episodes here on the From Another YouTube channel. If you've watched before, thanks for coming back. And if it's your first time, welcome. On the Vintage News, we cover all trends going on in the vintage world, as well as the general fashion world. If you ever have news you think we should cover, please reach out to me on my Instagram, which is Continuity. Anyways, on to our first story. While selling vintage on live streams is nothing new, vintage sellers have been migrating from selling on Instagram to newer apps like PopShop and Whatnot. Originally used for selling collectibles like cards and Funko Pops, Whatnot has been making a concerted effort to move into selling clothing, with categories like vintage, thrift, sneakers, hype, and even handbags being added in the past few months. The big advantage for sellers is payment and shipping are handled through the app, so there's no need to sift through hundreds of messages after you finish your live stream to find their info. Most streams operate on an auction style of selling, so audience members can bid on items until the clock runs out. If this isn't anxiety-inducing enough, the most viewed lives are now mystery box auctions. In this style of auction, sellers pack about 15 to 30 items into numbered boxes. They then post a floor and ceiling price for the boxes and reveal the contents to auction winners live on the stream. It's essentially gambling for vintage nerds, except instead of getting money, you get a valuable shirt, which you then have to sell in order to get the money. I can't lie, it is exciting to watch, but with the recent drama on Twitch with live gambling, I'm not sure this is the most ethical way to sell vintage. The other peculiar trend we've noticed is the Thrift with Me streams. This is where sellers will begin live streaming on Whatnot in the thrift store, using a body cam style setup. Though they aren't police abusing their power, they're actually sellers auctioning off items that they don't even own. If an item ends up selling, then the live streamer purchases the item and ships it to the auction winner. These strike me as odd, mostly for the public filming, kind of like actual live streamers. I can't imagine seeing one of these people in person, talking to their phone. I get enough social anxiety taking pictures of my finds in the thrift. These two styles of selling on Whatnot are worth observing. But the vast majority of the streams we see are of lower tier sales. We're talking stuff selling from $3 to $15 to people looking for a deal on some clothing. While live stream shopping has taken off in other parts of the world, namely in China, where it makes up 10% of total e-commerce in the country, this type of shopping has yet to find mainstream success in the Western world. Auctions work great for collectors of vintage and other collectibles, but for the everyday consumer, we have trouble seeing this becoming an alternative to shopping on places like Grailed and eBay, or even in person. And now, a word from our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by From Another. From Another is Alberta's #1 spot for new and used sneakers, vintage clothing, and streetwear. With locations in Calgary and Edmonton, as well as an online store, From Another has thousands of items for you to choose from. You can grab the hottest sneakers like the military black Jordan 4s, or a unique vintage piece like this WWF varsity jacket. From Another is giving free shipping to the first 20 people to use the code VINTAGENEWS at checkout, so use them quick at their website FromAnother.ca. That's coupon code VINTAGENEWS at checkout for free shipping. Now back to the show. Vintage snapbacks were one of the first vintage items to really gain hype. Back in the early 2010s, people like Wiz Khalifa were paying big bucks for scripts, shockwaves, shark tooths, and everything in between. While the hype died down as vintage t-shirts became the new it vintage item, we are now seeing a resurgence in the snapback game. On the other side of the world in Southeast Asia, namely the Philippines, snapbacks are hotter than ever. With live auctions occurring not only on Instagram, but also just as much on Facebook, snapbacks are the hot ticket, and buyers are outbidding each other like crazy to get the best ones. A few months back, one of the rarest snapbacks to collect went for auction on a Facebook Live show in the Philippines, and ended up selling for an insane amount. The hat was a Raiders pewter badge, which is a black hat that was made by American Needle that has a metal Raiders badge logo attached to the front. The story goes that Ice Cube found a bootleg one just like it at a flea market and loved it. Because he was wearing it so much, American Needle decided to make something similar, and thus the pewter Raiders hat was born. Apparently there are extremely low quantities of this hat, and because of that, VintageManiac.ph was willing to bid 800,000 Philippine pesos to purchase it, the equivalent of $14,000 in USD. Probably the most ever spent on a vintage snapback, and the highest bid we have ever seen on a live auction online. Finally, we wanted to highlight a few notable things to check out online. DJ Ross1 of Rap Tees has started a new series where he is going through his massive collection of tees and is highlighting one rap tee per day. It's great to hear him explain each item and even see some of the crazy rare pieces he has in his collection. The Durango Vintage Festivus, which was a 3-day vintage event, mostly about true vintage, went down the other month. There, a pair of 1800s Levi's was auctioned off for $76,000. People climbed a rope made out of jeans, and even bungee jumped into denim. It sounds ridiculous, and it is, so shout out to Original Indiana Jeans for putting on a weird but cool event. That's all for this episode of the Vintage News. If you have any news you want to see on the next episode, feel free to DM me on Instagram at Continuity. Thanks to our sponsors, and thanks to you for watching.